Hi everyone. Today what I want to talk about is sensory overload. I get it. A lot of people with functional neurological disorder have this as a symptom, and it's like so common, but it's really hard to deal with, and it's hard to explain to somebody else. I'm getting sensory overload. Just hold on a minute. It can kind of happen anywhere, anytime, and there are things you can do to manage and handle the situation and reduce your symptoms. So I think sensory overload is when there's something visually or noise, or it could be any kind of sensory thing in your environment that overwhelms the central nervous system and your brain gets overloaded. So your system gets overloaded and it can't process that input of information, and it will react in some way. So in my case, sometimes my body will have a fight, flight, freeze response. So sometimes it just shuts down, and I will get non-verbal, and I will just like people will be trying to talk to me, and I'll just and I just kind of shut down. Everything gets overwhelmed. I cannot respond. I am just dissociating. I'm out of it. I'm done. It's like shut down. Broom. Okay, Lenny's not with us anymore. She needs a break. Take her out of the situation. That's one thing. Another thing, my system can get overloaded and it will respond in another extreme, and it will just spaz out, and I'll have tremors. I'll have maybe a non-epileptic seizure. I'll have stuttering. Like, it just goes into some different kind of overdrive and responds with different functional symptoms. So that's something else that can happen, and you or your loved one might have a different response that happens in situations. So where can these sensory overload happen? Well, I would say that for me personally and for others that I know, the most common places to have sensory overload are out and about in public, in, for example, a supermarket, or before COVID-19, the airport. Places that have lots of noise and bright lights and crowds. Those kinds of environments are great for telling your brain to go, yeah, let's overload, I can't handle this. And it's just so exhausting. So like today I went to the hairdresser, and I'm like, going to the hairdresser is a really big deal. Like, it'll be the only thing I do that day, and I try not to go to the hairdresser very often because I know I will get sensory overload. So I really have to prepare myself and take a carer, and maybe have to talk to the hairdresser and say, excuse me, just to let you know, I have a neurological condition. I probably won't talk much. I just need to sit here and be quiet, if that's all right with you. So I worked out some strategies of how to manage situations, and I wanted to share some of those with you. I've talked before in some of my older videos about a little toolkit that I use to take out with me, And you know what, guys? I have leveled up my going outside of the house kit from when I first started having FND. I've gone up a few levels. So, yes, I have a water bottle. Yes, I have 10 kinds of medication that I take with me. Yes, I have awesome sunglasses to block out flashing lights, because you never know when you're trying to sit down and have a break at a cafe. Right there where the only seat is, that's where there will be a flashing light, and that just triggers something in your brain, and your brain is like, gah, there is a flashing light. I can't handle this flashing light. There is nowhere else to sit down. My legs are exhausted and I'm in pain. And it's like there's a messaging in your brain, and the wire communicating with your body is just like, this is FND in action. That there's a flashing light and there's pain in your body, and then you'll have a spasm and you won't be able to handle it, and then you need to leave the cafe before you've even had your chocolate cake. So, sunglasses for inside. Noise cancelling headphones. Second hand. Try to get them cheap. Make sure you check reviews to get ones that will actually cancel noise and not just play music. Then I have sensory tools that I try to keep with me all the time. This is one that my neurophysiotherapist recommended, and then this is one that a elementary school friend just had it as a toy. I thought it would be good. So when my brain is stuck on a certain neuropathway of sensory overload, I will try to get it on a different neuropathway to help relax and change the path that it's on. So if I am feeling stressed in my central nervous system, I want to calm that down and relax or distract and take the focus somewhere else. So if I'm in the supermarket and there's really bright lights and there's crowds and there's noise, like there's music and there's announcements, and I feel the stress because I'm seeing all this people and there's just too much visual information, too much sound, even though I've got my noise cancelling headphones on. I find having a different sense can help me change my neuropathway. So that's where something physical that I can touch, interesting texture can actually change the neuropathway that my brain is stuck on. So having some interesting cloth or having a tool like this can really help my brain. So I go, oh, this interesting spiky thing. And my neurophysiotherapist actually got me to poke these, and I would say something like, A is for apple, B is for banana, C is for chocolate, D is for, and I would have to go through the whole alphabet and touch something and say like a fruit or an animal. And by the time I've gone through the alphabet, that brain has calmed right down. So that's one technique. And then this is just a popping bubbles. And I find it's better to do something physical than being on my phone. Having something physical and sensory helps move my brain off that other neuropathway it was on. You might try eating something. Just having something in your mouth might take the focus off the sounds or the sights that you're seeing, and your brain will, oh, I'm eating some food right now. What does that feel like? What does that taste like? What am I smelling? And of course there are other grounding techniques that you can use, and grounding techniques are a great way to use for a lot of different functional symptoms. So breathing, doing a counting exercise, a lot of those things can help with different functional symptoms. Of course, they're not a magic cure, but when you're in a tough situation, they can just be like a thing that helps you in that situation. Other things that I've got is I've got like a disability thing now. It says not every disability is visible. So I'll actually wear this when I'm in the supermarket, and sometimes when I'm in a line, it just gives people pause to go, oh, this other person has a disability and they only have 2 things in their shopping. Maybe I'll let them go first. Thank you. And a parking sticker, but I actually haven't used that for a while because my walking's been pretty good. And emergency snacks, because sometimes you just need some sugar to help you. So yeah, that's what I try to have with me, and that's how I survive my trips outside, is all of those things. And in a lot of situations when you like, for me, I feel the sensory overload just underneath my eyes. It's like a fatigue that comes in, and I go, whoa, it's coming. And if you know yourself and you know when something's coming on, usually it's better to just, if you can, get out of the situation before it gets too bad, and sometimes just remove yourself rather than trying to push through and make things worse on your body. And of course, there's sometimes when you do have to just go and get that milk, and you just have to do it. But if at all possible, be kind to yourself. That's something that I'm trying to learn and trying to live out. It's really hard. Yeah. Alright, that's my tips for sensory overload and managing it. And please share your tips for dealing with sensory overload. I'm sure there's a wealth of experience and wisdom out there. So go ahead and share your tips for dealing with sensory overload.